All right, welcome all my friends, welcome all again, and finally continuing the Sum 41 discography deep dive. And last time, of course, we were talking about this album with a zombie on the cover, Steve-O the zombie. And then this time we're talking about Chuck. And this is, depending on who you ask, but most people would say their third record. I still call it their fourth because yeah, I said it in other videos, but their first EP is the same length as their debut album. So and I think it's got almost the same amount of tracks. Not quite, but the duration's the same, and it constitutes an album for me. Anyway, long story long, this is, of course, Chuck, released in 2004 on Aquarius Records. Had to check that. I was thinking of it as '05, but that's when Rocked came out, Rocked in the Congo, and that was, of course, one of the War Child efforts. War Child used to pair with famous musicians, and I remember some other Canadian musicians doing a collaboration with War Child, and Sum 41 flew to the Congo, and we're talking to the people and talking about what had been going on in the last 5, 6, 7 years, basically since 1998, and just casting a whole light on, all the travesties that had been going on, and the, over 3 million deaths, and the child soldiers that were killing each other, and one in three women were getting raped. They were in the tourist capital, and there were bullet holes in the sign, "Welcome to the tourist capital of the Congo," with bullet holes in it, and they got stuck in a crossfire, as it were. They were I think it was their last or second to last day that they were going to be in the Congo, and yeah, they'd seen a lot of heavy stuff, but then gunshots were going off where they were staying, and between 40 and 60 people were stuck in cones in his room. And this guy, and I hope I don't butcher his name, but I'm not very good with French, Chuck Pelletier. He was a UN officer, and he helped them out of there, and they got to some neutral ground, and they were supposed to leave that day or the day after, and they got stuck for 3 days, and it makes for a fascinating documentary. I'll link it in the comments. You can find it on YouTube, thankfully. The editing is not to my taste because it's edited really quick like a music video, but the latter half, they slow it down a little bit. I just wish they kind of hung on things, and maybe it would be an hour-and-a-half documentary instead of just an hour. But for a band of their stature and how young they are, like watching the documentary, I'm like, wow, these guys look young. They look like most bands when their first album comes out. I thought good for them for, going and agreeing to this, and, they didn't know what they were getting into. Chuck himself, the namesake, he lives in Victoria, BC now, I believe, and I think he has 1 or 2 kids. I think he's doing well. I think that, actually, I know, because Steve-O said in an interview quite recently that, Chuck, when everyone got home, and Chuck got home, and that, he would come to Sum 41 concerts, and he was a fan. So that's really cool. But yeah, anyway, I guess they joked that, if you get us out of here, we will name the record after you. And, or maybe they told him that after, like, we got to name our record after you. Anyway, this was another one produced by Greg Norrie. It follows up Does This Look Infected, like I said, and it furthers that heavy sound. They were always kind of wearing their influences on their sleeve, lots of Maiden and Priest in their songs, and this one has a lot of Metallica and alternative metal influence, which I have always read and got the feeling that going forward after this record, except for the one right after Underclass Hero, which was more stripped back, but all the other ones are very much more metal, and they really left behind the whole, fat lip, kind of pop punk motivation, kind of that sound. And this one, the lyric subject is darker, and it's kind of like Still Waiting was the template on the record prior, and then a lot of the lyrical themes of 88 and Open Your Eyes, There's No Solution, The Bitter End, and first single, We're All to Blame, really picks up those ideas and runs with it. You know, it starts with intro, which does sound like the intro to like a Metallica song off maybe their second album, and it goes into No Reason right away with Derek shouting, "All of us believe this is not up to you," and it's probably one of the catchiest songs on the record, but it really brings home the points that they're trying to make lyrically. You know, this is dark. Sum 41. They're not skateboarding around and performing in empty pools in the music videos. So that's one of the best songs here, and that's probably one of my favorite Sum 41 songs ever, as is We're All to Blame, which you know, has these kind of chugging verses and a very Pixies-like bridge, very catchy chorus. It marries it all together. It's kind of like some of those hit System of a Down songs where, you know, it really hits you hard, and then it has a very melodic chorus, much like one of their most famous songs, Chop Suey by System of a Down. So that's another one of the band's best songs ever housed on this record. Angel with Dirty Faces is good. Some Say was the third single, and I don't think I was really listening to the radio by the time the third single came out, but I already had kind of hopped off Sum 41 at the time. I remember We're All to Blame, hearing that a lot and really liking that, and probably getting it by very legal means, if you know what I mean. But that's okay. I have the album now. But yeah, it was just that one song, and then Pieces came out, and I thought, this is kind of lame. I don't really like this. So by the time Some Say came out, you know, I might have heard it a couple times or a few times somewhere, but I wasn't really a fan. Going back to it, it's a really nice song. I know, I can see why it's one of their most cherished songs by a lot of their hardcore fans. I just think it's weird that it followed up Pieces. I think that maybe No Reason should have been the third single. Though some say it was a single in some markets, like up here in Canuckland, but it wasn't a single all over the world. But yeah, I think it's a missed opportunity, because most rock bands would have, you know, a big lead single, big kind of catchy or heavy lead single, and then they would go into you know, maybe another song in that vein for the second single, and then the third single would be the ballad, you know, do it like how Linkin Park did it on their first record. That was always a winning formula. And this one sold well, but I think it could have done even better if they put out, like I said, No Reason maybe as the third single, or done No Reason as the second single, and then Pieces as the third. The Bitter End is up there with No Reason and We're All to Blame as one of my favorites. That one just shreds. That one and Open Your Eyes have some great riffs in them, and these two tracks really make you understand why, at least, and we'll get there, but at least I remember Underclass Hero being lacking. I remember the production was good, but I just thought, you need Brown sound, you know? So it's sad that he left. I think listening to this, because it kind of feels like, pun fully intended, but the sum of two parts a little bit. Like he might have had a different interest, and maybe there were too many slow songs here, or maybe there were other factors at play. You know, we never know the drama for Canadian bands as much as the well-storied American rather, and British bands. But you know, maybe they kept it together. He came back, so no bad blood really. Slipping Away, this one, I remember I think it was, I'm going to say one and only time I listened to Chuck, or maybe it was twice, I can't really remember back when it came out, and it was one of those, this will really date me and the video and everything, but AOL listening parties, and just thinking, you know, boring, I can't wait till I get to the next one, but this one's interesting, and it really deals with, like a lot of the other ballads and slower, more personal songs from Derek Whibley, it deals with, you know, anxiety, depression. He had a lot of alcoholism problems. And, yeah, I mean, I wish I was mature enough at the time to really hone into that a little bit more, because I did like a lot of serious music and more lyrically driven music, but when I sat down to my pop punk bands, maybe not so much. But then again, I remember liking some of the heavier Blink-182 songs that dealt with divorce or suicide. So I don't know, what was I asking for from Sum 41? You can tell I'm coming down with a cold, by the way. I'm sorry. I'm slipping away myself. It's really interesting to me, though, because in the latter half of Slipping Away, they kind of go for this more Beatles-esque production method. And I think that works really well. That complements the song and keeps it interesting. Then you go heavy again with I'm Not the One and Welcome to Hell. I was going to say one of my favorite parts of the Rocked in the Congo, dumb name, but really good documentary. Again, I'll link it. I said that before, but it was that all the kids in this camp for kids that were kind of getting over, being in a war and all that, and they would just do carpentry and fix things and spend their days singing and dancing, and they put on this big song for the band, and they were dancing. It's very energetic, and it's just, they're naturally all great singers and so talented and everything. And Sum 41 come out and they have their acoustic guitars, and they're like, okay, they did some songs for us, now we're gonna play them a song, and hopefully we can turn it into a big sing-along. So they start an acoustic version of Hey Jude, one of the best Beatles songs, one of the best pop songs of all time. And these kids that have all this rhythm, and they're dancing, and they can make stuff up just out of the blue, out of thin air. They're kind of like, na, 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 na. Like, very, no emotion. Like, sounded like a dirge or something, like a funeral dirge. They didn't get it. It's Western music's influence, and it's like, Derek, did you not sing it very well? He did his best. It's not really in his wheelhouse, but he could do it, and they couldn't mimic it. It didn't make any sense. It was Western music. So I just thought I'd bring that up, because Slipping Away is probably the one and only time that a part of a Sum 41 song had reminded me of the Beatles. And just in that latter half, I'm Not the One and Welcome to Hell brings it up a notch. Great chorus, and I'm Not the One, Welcome to Hell. I didn't realize this. There's not really any bad tracks off this one, and I think this is why it's a lot of people's favorite. I was able to say that too for All Killer No Filler. I'm not the biggest In Too Deep fan, but it's a really good song too, and you wouldn't want to press skip on it. Whereas this one had one song that I thought was a little bit lacking. But really, that might be my favorite. I'm not sure. This might be too. Pieces, like I said, didn't quite get it when I was a teenager, which is when I should have got it the most, but I just thought, oh, it's a slow ballad, and, I don't know why I accepted and loved Boulevard of Broken Dreams by Green Day, but not this. And then coming back to the video, it's like, wow, that might be one of their best videos, or their best, because it's very powerful. And yeah, I really feel what they were going for, and it's very passionate. The video is quite touching. I've definitely felt like that myself. I'm not afraid to admit. And yeah, I think it helped a lot of people. And I think it kind of blows Steve-O's mind, because he's a drummer and he likes the fast songs that he's not in the band anymore, but he always gets asked Sum 41 questions. He gravitates towards the fast songs and, the Hell song and stuff like that. So when people go, Pieces is the one, that's my favorite song, that really did it for me, he's kind of like, huh, oh, Pieces? Really? Not as fun to play, but it's like, it's because it helped them so much. These are broken people, and yeah, I mean, I get that. It's a good song. It's a really great song. I thought it was nothing when it was popular. So, maybe I've matured, I don't know. And then There's No Solution, which they played a lot live at the time. I remember this one was on Go Chuck Yourself. Get it? No, we don't. And that one was a live album that was released the year after this. And there was either a DVD, I think there was a DVD of that. You can find it on YouTube now, though. And then it ends really strongly with 88, which, you know, kind of counterbalances the, I hope there's some, you know, hope in your future. I hope there's some hope. I hope there's some good things coming in your future, and it kind of counterbalances it with there's no hope for anyone, you know, especially if we continue on how we do. And, you know, this album is nearly 20 years old now, 19 years ago. Yeah, and it's one of the more experimental songs. I really appreciate how kind of frantic and anxious it is in the first half, and then it kind of slows down, and it's actually quite hopeless. It ends on kind of a sad note, which I guess is the right choice instead of forcing a happy ending. Yeah, anyway, it's a good record, and I wasn't quite sure the first time I put it on, like, what I would say in a video, because I wasn't quite feeling half the songs, and then, you know, the third play, the fourth play, I was like, wow, this is one of their best albums, I really like this. And, you know, I look forward to seeing what the rest of the discography has. You know, this is the last song, or last album for a while that had Dave Baksh on it, aka Brown Sound. And so that's going to be sad going into Underclass Hero. I'm hoping I can find some highlights off it, because I remember really not liking that one at all. I remember it being like my least favorite album from a band I used to like, but a lot of people seem to like it, actually, and specifically Walking Disaster. And so it'll be interesting. I want to hear what Derek brought production-wise to the table, because he turned into a really good producer. For his own band and for Avril and maybe for some other acts. I'll have to look into that. And, you know, I am sad that after a while Steve-O will be leaving the band as I start delving into the uncharted territories for me. Some 41 albums that I never, you know, I knew existed, I guess, but I never listened to them when they came out. I didn't even know what any of their names were until last year, where I'm like, huh, you know, I should listen to Sum 41 again, especially when, you know, we're on the brink of Heaven X Hell coming out, which it's stylized like maybe it's supposed to be Heaven and Hell or Heaven versus Hell, but the double album that's coming out, hopefully still next spring. We're on track for that, I hope, because it seems like a long wait, and then they'll do their last tour ever, unfortunately without Steve-O 32, but yeah, that'll be interesting. And you know, the new single is good. It's catchy. It's nothing like this though. But you know, it's good, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what a double album of Sum 41 kind of entails. And I think that they're kind of gonna do like one side maybe into their pop punk roots, and that's what Landmines is going for, and then one side like darker, heavier stuff, which is what I assume they've been doing for the last 2 or 3 albums up to this point. But, you know, we'll get there when we get there. How fitting that I'm rambling here. Yeah, so Chuck, great record. Can see why people get this tattooed on their body, and why this one means so much to people. Glad I finally get it. Like, I got a physical copy of it now, but I get it. Whereas, like I said before, I liked half of it. I probably would have said it was kind of an average record or whatever. Thanks so much for watching and putting up with my getting sick voice. So hopefully I'll have that back next time I make a video. And soon we'll be looking at Underclass Hero, though there's lots of other videos in the can. But yeah, it's been fun to look up the Sum 41 discography, and I have to do a half-hour Power one too. Peace and love, everyone. Tell me your favorite Sum 41 songs in the comments, and tell me if Chuck's your favorite, or do you like Does This Look Infected? What do you think about their newer stuff, and are you looking forward to seeing them on the new tour and listening to the new album? Anyway, thanks again, and we'll catch you real soon. Bye, everybody.